Ayo, Ashafone, Adofo, and Yamamo Aquaba, Ediba, Food, Ediba, Obra TV, so, and as I said, Ghana SD page. Maybe I will share a piano, Yamamo Aquaba, and then every break. Now, I hope you say, maybe I will be, you are feeling good. And then, you try your trade, so, I said, yeah, every piano, Yashamu Bono, and your papa, and here, say, for us to feel good in this world that you will be, and no employer Anna Yasha was said. Enti edo no menya abrantie bia na se cratchy bia or abeka ye ho na ye de sa edumedi abro na minimie say what in papi real estate development in ade enti no and then we're looking for the experts to advise us on real estate.
Dr. Phil, thank you very much for inviting me to your program. Within the ancestor Solomon Oppong Antwi. Just a little bit about me. Hi, everybody. Anyway, my background is real estate. I started, Mr. T, I would say, me to houses, and I enter into real estate investing. So I've been doing that for a little bit over 2 years now. Just a little bit though, maybe I started out in Ghana and I'm to buy a Chrome Hanum because me papa no shaman or moon tem kakra. And in the struggle, say I may try to make it up for myself, I thought say, if I maybe come to US about Buame school community. So that's what happened, back in 2006. And then from there, me call Purdue 2011. I finished school, and me started say, I started to kind of get curious because most immigrants, but at the end of the day, although you're working hard, sometimes you don't see the fruit of your labor. So I kind of began to get curious about real estate, investing in Emanema. So my first investment, was like 2016. And I started say I started looking into me for seminar when they invited me. So when I went there, that really changed my whole perspective about real estate and it building wealth. And in her Bible can be said, a wise man leave inheritance for his kids. And then when I read that, and then I look at real estate opportunities, I started learning about it more and more. And that's kind of how my journey started in real estate.
Okay, all right. Since then, how has it been?
Oh, so far, it's been very good. It's been very good. There's been, like anything else, there's been challenges and there's been some really, good things that have come out of real estate. And that's why when you call me to come on this program, normally I'm not used to being in front of the screen. I'm used to being in the background and just doing my own thing. But when you called me, I was like, okay, hey, if I know a little bit and I can share with our Ghanaian community, especially, no doubt I will do it. So.
Okay. So when we talk about real estate now, I think it's a very broad topic, right?
Yeah.
For a layman like me, maybe a nurse, sell me on real estate. And I say advise me on real estate.
So will be our newbie. Let me say this. Real estate, it doesn't matter what field that will be able to invest in real estate. And for me, maybe I say, I kind of follow the same pattern as most Africans and our Ghanaians. They teach you, go to school, work hard, and then you get a job. And when you're 65, you retire. Like I said, although I was doing that, I saw that, at the end of the month, you work hard, but said, you're trying to save pennies, but things were not like going as planned. So for me, the first investment that I would advise of your new person, regardless of your background, say buy your first home. Buy your first home. When you buy your first home, and then after a year, you can move and you can move out, rent that home, and then go get another one. If you can do that in the next 10 years, you're going to have about 10 properties. And that's it. Yeah, if each one of them is worth about $200,000, you have $1 million. So, I mean, about 2 million. So, that's kind of how you can start.
So in that case, are you suggesting say like I buy a home, live in there for a year or so, and then I move out and then go buy another one, then move out. It's almost every year or two, and then we move it.
Yeah, yeah, every
Oh,
year or two. I know you can, that's one way you can kind of start. There are different strategies I will be to me here. If you know yeah, apart from say, over to first home, and then every year you move out. Like if you're a single guy, that one is really easy to do because I remember when I was single, I just had, a bag and then my mattress. Every year, yeah, I was just moving.
okay, okay.
So,
And what did you
but if you have a family, yeah, if you
Right,
have a family and kids, I mean, that can be really hard.
right.
So there are different strategies that you can use apart from, buying a single home family and then moving every year. If you don't to me, be a free say wholesaling. Wholesaling they say nipa no be obi ho akyere no now person turn a house. You go and kind of be the middleman and maybe Okotono waji contract and very cheap and then you sell it higher. I just say kumasi no. Obi one ma Okoto be a sasika be Okotono 1 cedi and Okotono 2 cedis. So there are all different kind of strategy. But I think the most important thing that anybody who is trying to go into real estate you can do, and I say, you have to prepare yourself. You have to learn. Real estate is one of those things that they don't teach you in school. You know, uh, a lot of things. You go to school, you study so hard, but most things that are relating to entrepreneurship, they don't want us to know. So then it becomes the way you can go about it is you have to learn. You have to learn. That's one thing. Learn as much as you can about real estate. Like I started reading books. Like the first book I remember I read was Rich Dad Poor Dad. You
Oh
know,
yeah, I still
uh,
have it.
yeah.
Still have it.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Right. Okay, I don't know. Say okay, my person may commercial with me, so just flashing it real quick. And
yeah,
I sure don't want to be that poor that.
right. so, so that was the first book. Kind of it just really, turned the light bulb on. And I was like, wow, if this thing is there, man, let me research more. And then once you have the skill, in America, they have a saying that, your network is your network. Your network is your network. So basically, they did a research and they found out that, when you associate with, let's say, 5 people, your pay scale or how much you're going to make is the average of the 5 people. In a, kind of summarize everything. If you associate with losers, you become a loser. It's so true in real estate. It's the people that are doing it when you get close to them, and people are really happy to talk about it. If you get close to them and we network with them and kind of tell you the strategies that they are using. So your network is your network. So you have to associate with people who are doing it, and then that's one easy way you can learn because they don't teach it in school. As
And now I understand why I got your contact from no one else but Dr. Michael Kwesi because he
yeah, he's
Okay, or you are the BB to the status this week said if you associate with five richest people and now five rich people, you become the same. If you associate
That
with
is
five
true.
sensible people, you become the same. And now I understand his association with you. So I know your level now. But back to the
Well,
real estate, I believe that there are also different forms. We have residential and there are commercial
right,
and there are others.
right. Anyway, going back to Dr. Question, yeah, he's a great friend, an awesome guy, who is actually, he inspires me so much every day to be a better person. But anyway, so some of the strategies that you can invest in real estate, yeah, like you said, single family. That's what I talk about beginning. That where you go buy a home, like a single family, anything from 1 bedroom to 4 bedrooms is considered a single family. So when it goes about above like 4 or 5 bedrooms, then it's considered multi-family or commercial real estate. And then from there, you can also go into what we call apartment. Apartment is like what you have maybe 25 units or, maybe 500 units, But most people actually start from single family because those ones, it's easy for the bank to give you a loan, you know. Like they say something that, you have to learn to use other people's money, OPP, other people's money, You cannot do everything by yourself. And if even you want to save all you can, you're going to find out quickly that you're going to run out of money. So you have to learn to use other people's money, save as much as you can and live like you're poor, live like you're poor and not try to be rich, in the sense of what society expects you. Because, I mean, you think about it, most people that are, that you're trying to impress, they don't even care. And in most cases, they don't even look at you. So why try to impress people who don't even care, So that's kind of how you. So apart from the single family, multi-family, and that's like duplexes and stuff like that. Those ones, what they do is we call it cash flow. So they cash flow well. That means that when cash flow is basically you buy a house, let's say $100,000, right? And then when you take your mortgage, how much you're going to pay to the bank, and then you take your repairs, like we call it the expenses, insurance. At the end of the month, you have some money left. So that's what we call cash flow. So that's why I say you have to learn. So when you learn about it, all these little things, and it's really not hard. It's just that it's not familiar. So once you learn about it and you're buying a duplex or a single family, you have to know that however much you're buying it for, you're going to get a renter that you'll be able to have some money left at the end of the month.
Okay.
So,
So let us say where you've gotten us to. We have some people watching, and I just want to appreciate and acknowledge them. Dr. Michael Question is watching. He sent in a comment. He said, also, buying is a very interesting thing. And I think that we might have to delve more into that so that people can have the understanding. We also
right.
have Richard Ofori-Yentumi watching. He also is someone that is into real estate, just on the US as a or UK. But I know
Oh,
that he's
got
into
you.
real estate also. Yeah. We also have Trisha watching, and then Skinny B. Or say, how does the rent to own work?
So rent to own basically, it's one of those investment strategy. Let's say you want to buy a house, a $200,000 house, but you don't have the money. Somebody owns the house, so you go and tell the person that, hey, I'm going to rent this place until I'm paying the house off, and then it will become mine. So basically, you're just starting out. with maybe you're going to pay like 1,000 or 1,200 every month. And then in the next maybe 15, 30 years, when you finish paying it, the house becomes yours plus, whatever equity you have built in it. So it's a really, great strategy that you can go about it if you don't have a lot of money.
Okay. So instead of may rent one where I'll be paying maybe the mortgage plus interest plus profit to the owner, then
Yeah.
what advantage is it to me instead of me then buying my own and then paying my own mortgage?
Yeah. So, yeah, that's a great question, Dr. Phil. So normally, in America, like if you're buying a single family, you can get up to 10 loans, right? Let's say the person runs out, he got all that, he's used all his 10 loans. And let's assume hypothetically that he doesn't know where else he can go find money. I mean, we will dive into finance later, but you can get venture capitalists and those people to help you out. But let's say you don't know those options, then and then the other thing too is some people have very bad credit, so they can't go to the bank and get a loan. So
Gotcha.
if you cannot do that, I will advise you that, that can be a route you can go. But the risk with, rent to own is, something happens and then, 1 month, like right now we are in Corona recession, right? So let's say you lose your job, you can't pay the rent. I mean, the seller, the landlord get to keep all the house plus all the equity and you have nothing left. So, I mean, if you have money, you can save a little bit, like maybe 8,000, 6,000. Some of them you can even do without zero down payment. And that's, with single family and just get your feet wet and learn how real estate work. And I believe that, it doesn't matter if you're a nurse, if you're a doctor, whatever field that you're in, you can learn about real estate. And, with the right skill and the right people, you can be successful and actually build some wealth for yourself. I
Okay.
mean, when we're back home in Ghana, our parents, they own cocoa farms, right? It's very unfortunate. The moment we travel to America, we leave all that entrepreneurial skills and now we want to work for people, which is not bad. I mean, you got to work to be able to earn money, but you have to also have some way to invest that money so that when you're 65, you're not, worried about how you're going to retire. Because you think about it, the average American, they did a research and they said the average American has about $70,000, in their retirement fund. $70,000 in this market is not going to do anything, not even 4 years. All it takes is you get sick, like you go to the hospital like twice and you're done. You have nothing left,
Seventy thousand
so.
dollars. So that is all right. We have another question. In Komode Yende, we have another question
Yeah.
from Dr. Question, and the question is, great job, bro. Um, what amount of money in terms of down payments is necessary to invest in real estate? And if
So
possible, can you elaborate about the wholesaling real estate process?
yeah, so that's a great question, Dr. Quason. So basically, they have about two main loans that they use. They have the FHA, which is like government loans, and that one you need a minimum of 3.5% of the total loan, right? So let's say you're buying $100,000, you need about what, down payment about
3,500 and at
yeah
35,000.
3,500. And yeah, about 3,500. And then you're going to need something like, what they call closing costs, just roughly about 3,000. So if you have 6,500, you can buy your first home. And the good thing about it is when we are in a recession right now, interest rate is so low, and the government, there are so many strategies that you can even buy a house without having to put a down payment. You can
Solomon,
do what we call
with the payment options and all of that, I think that you've given us the general overview. So I think that
right,
let's leave that for another day, so that because I like it where we can finish something and then people can have a better understanding. So with this
right.
overview, if Dr. Kwesi doesn't mind that, then we'll pick on
Okay,
financing alone on another day. But let's go back to
okay.
the wholesale, since we're still talking about real estate, so that we can actually have the understanding of the wholesale.
Yeah. So wholesaling, basically, you are an investor, right? You're a real estate investor. Somebody have their house, maybe their grandma or their aunt left them the house. They don't really care. All they want is they want to get rid of the house, right? Because what happened is if even the house is paid off, you're still going to have to come out with the taxes. I live in Dallas Fort Worth area, and taxes is pretty high. Like if you own a single family, just to give you, a scenario, if you own a single family, that is like $200,000. Your taxes is going to be like $5,000 a year if you live in a good neighborhood. So people like that, they don't want to keep paying $5,000 a year, and the house is in so much bad shape they cannot sell it to the average population or seller. So that's where you come in. So
Mm,
basically, you call the person and say, "Hey, I can help you sell this house. I'm an investor," and then you get the house under contract. You get a house under contract, and then you go in turn sell it to another investor. So the difference between how much you get it for, if you get it for like, let's say the house is worth $200,000 and you get it for like 30,000, and you go sell it to another investor for like 50,000, you're making 20,000 off the bat. So that's kind of how, in a nutshell, that's how wholesaling works.
then what is the difference between that and using a realtor?
So the difference between that and using a realtor, which I am one, wholesaling, you have to know what you're doing. You have to know the paperwork. Of course, you're going to have to do paperwork. So if you don't know the paperwork and you don't know how to get like financing and all that, which the realtor will take care of all that for you, so you don't have to deal with that headache if you don't know. And as you know, real estate is one of those business that is kind of kept in the closet for certain class of people. Unfortunately, I don't know why, but you have to know somebody to be able to even kind of start learning about all these strategies.
Mm, mm. Okay, so
Yeah,
that is the wholesaling. Yeah, when I heard
right.
wholesaling, I thought you buy a bunch of houses, wholesale, and then you start to retail them, sell them one by one. That was my understanding of wholesaling. I
Yeah.
didn't know they got more to do with that. Okay, all right. So
Yeah, I mean,
now,
you can do that, on a grand scale. You can, get that from a bank and just intend sell it to other investors. So, I
okay,
mean, you can go, it depends on, how large you want to go. Yeah.
right, okay, but that is when you are very well networked, where you know that I can get these number of houses and I have X, Y, Z people to contact, right?
Right, right,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay. So let me ask this. You were talking about us, immigrants. Why is it very important for an immigrant who has one leg still in Ghana and one leg in America or Europe, anywhere I'm at? Why is it important for me to own a home here or get into real estate actually?
Well, I mean, you think about it, and I want to, give you a quote. One guy said, investing in real estate is smart because property is a tangible asset. Something you can hold on to, and people always and will always have a need for shelter, right? So it's one of those basic needs that you cannot do without. You're going to need a place to sleep. It's a multi-trillion-dollar industry. So why is it that as immigrant we've come here and we are not trying to tap into this industry, right? So the easiest way is, yeah, you're investing in Ghana, which is great. I mean, we need to build our own economy. I'm a strong believer of that.
Okay.
Because if we don't do that, nobody is going to come do it for us. And like, the Bible even talks about, a wise man leave, inheritance for his kids. And so building in Ghana is great that we're going to, leave something for the next generation. But we are in America right now, right? You're living here 99% of your time. So we also need to take advantage of, whatever opportunity is here. And the good thing too is that if you invest in real estate here, you have more purchasing power in Ghana. And then you can take that money in Ghana and build something big for yourself and your family. And that way, if you decide that, hey, at some point I want to retire, whatever age that you are, you can go there and live like a king. Is that not what we all want?
Right. But actually, that also becomes another real estate investment also for you, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And the other thing too is, as Christians, we need to, learn to contribute to our community. A wise man once said that, we should be ashamed to die unless we've made some major contribution to society. Yeah, we can't just sit back because we are in America and just say that, hey, this thing is for this population and we are not going to, do that. I think that God has blessed us as, Africans, as immigrants, with the brain to be able to learn and, digest things. And so when we come here, we need to take all the advantages that we can get. And the other thing too is cash flow. We work because of cash flow. So if you have a rental property and let's say every month is giving like $3,000, I mean, that's pretty good. That means it's going to free you up. Maybe you don't have to work as much. You can focus on developing your entrepreneurship business, or you can have more money to contribute to your church or whatever charity that you want. So it's not just that you want money. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but you just want to have that room, wiggle room, that you don't have to be so tight that if you want to do something, you can't do it because you don't have the money.
Okay. All right. So, at what age, you know, would you advise that I start going into real estate?
Well, I would say that, real estate is all, kind of a timing. I wouldn't put an age on it. It's all based on a strategy that you find the right deal or, the right timing. Like right now we are in a recession, right? So it doesn't really matter, what age that you start. You just have to start once you have the knowledge and you feel the edge to do it. You know, Ideally, if I knew, I would have started in my 20s when I came here, but I didn't know all these things. All these things that I'm telling you guys, I didn't know. So if you know, now that you've heard something, I think that you should start right away. You shouldn't wait.
Okay.
The earlier you start, the better.
Okay. All right. So, in terms of real estate, there's one thing that I always hear, that there are three rules to real estate. And rule
Right.
number one, location. Rule number two, location. Number three, location. Please explain that. What does that mean?
So let me give you this example. I have I'm a real estate agent and a real estate investor. So I really didn't understand the location thing until I went into the business, right? So let's say I have two houses, all at the same price, right? One is in a part of, let's say, Cincinnati, that nobody wants to live there, right? And another one is in part of, let's say, Cincinnati, that everybody wants to live there because the school is great. So what happened is when you put it on the market, everybody is going to look at the one that everybody wants to live there, and there's going to be a bidding war. The one that nobody wants to live there is just going to sit there and nobody cares about it. So location is very key when you're buying. And one thing I tell people is when you're buying, I mean, you don't have to buy in the most expensive neighborhood, but
Okay.
just find some place that you want to live. Are you comfortable living there? If you're comfortable living there, buy a house there, and you can rent it out. Yeah.
Okay.
So
And Isaac is asking, how do you determine if a property will cash flow?
basically, for me, the way I teach my people that I come in contact with is look at, let's say you buy a house for $100,000, right? You look at all the expenses, the expenses. Give yourself like maybe 10% in repairs. Your mortgage is also the biggest thing. Insurance. When you add all that to it, right? And then you subtract from, so when you add all your expenses, your insurance, your repairs and all that, and then you subtract from how much you're going to rent it for. Whatever is left at the end of the month is what we call your cash flow. I don't know if that answers that. If at the end of the month you're not going to get, let's say, 400 to 600, I wouldn't invest in that property.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So the advisable margin is between 400 to 600. Anything
Yeah,
above
400 to
those is good.
600, kind of, yeah, on the low end. If you're
Okay.
not going to get that, I wouldn't advise you, because what is going to happen is, yeah, the property might go up, but you don't eat equity.
Mm, mm.
Yeah, it's going to go up, but you don't eat equity. You need to have room to be able to do repairs and stuff like that. So,
Okay.
yeah, that's kind of how I look at it.
So you mentioned a few things. One of it being your mortgage that you're going to pay. The other ones are utilities and stuff like that, right? So how much do
Right.
I have to earmark for um, repairs? As I'm doing my math to determine whether I can get up to 600 plus.
Yeah. So just give yourself about 10 to 15% in repairs.
Okay.
Yeah, 10 to 15%. That is kind of how I do it. And and then of course you're gonna do like mowing and stuff like that, because you don't want a situation where you're gonna be doing all that. Eventually it's gonna get tiring. So you don't want that. So so when you basically put all those expenses together, you subtract at the end of the month, you subtract that expenses, mortgage, you add all those expenses, I call it expenses, and you subtract from how much you're renting the property from. Let's say you put it together, you're renting it for 1,500, right? And then your mortgage plus expenses at the end of the month is like, 1,000. Your cash flow is 500.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's how much you're gonna make. But
Okay.
think about it, it doesn't seem much. But the house is like, 100,000, right? Next year it's probably going to be maybe 110. The following year 120.
And then by
Before
that
you
time
know
too,
it,
you can increase your rental, right?
your renter. Yeah, every year,
And
every
then
year
as the years also goes by, your principal becomes more, your interest becomes less, right? And then it gets to a
less.
time where sometimes even your
Yeah,
mortgage payment may be lesser than what you started with. Is that correct?
right. And
Oh,
somebody
okay.
is paying,
I got
and
some fair
somebody is
knowledge.
paying for you. Somebody is paying it. You're not paying it, right?
Right,
All you're
right, right,
using is your credit.
right. So that is good. Okay, so talking about credit, there was
Yeah,
a previous comment which said it is always on point. Thank you very much. I try when you hang around,
right,
Solomon just said this. When you hang around good people, you become the next good person, right? So
yeah,
hanging around Solomon and the rest, at least it makes me have some knowledge in some of these things. Thanks very much for that
right.
comment. And Mr. Kwesi is back with a question. What's a good credit score to begin the process of buying a house? And if a couple wants to buy a house, which would be considered as one application, what credit score would be good for the duo to buy?
So credit score wise, in US, the average credit score, you need a minimum about 640 to be able to buy a house. That's for the government loan, which is FHA loan. But don't don't take my word. There are so many creative ways you can go about that, but you have to know
Okay.
the right people. I've seen like people use 580 to buy a house, but those are not very common. Like we call it creative financing. You have to know somebody in the business to be able to get that deal. And most of the time, as immigrants, you have to, I mean, if you know an immigrant, you're trying to buy a house, an immigrant who is doing it, instead of running away from them, go talk to them, because our culture, sometimes it teaches us to run away from each other, which is very bad.
Yeah.
Because what happens is you're taking the money from your community and go giving it to another community,
Right.
and at the end of the day, everybody suffers.
Right. So, when we talk about the financing part more, I think you can give us much more details into your credit score and how it affects the amount that you can, you know, make, right? Or you can realize from the
Right.
bank to be able to finance. Okay. Then the question of taking the money from your community to another community. What is the
Yeah.
average service charge of a realtor when they lead you to buy a house?
So it kind of varies from state to state, but I live in Texas. In the Dallas Fort Worth area, you don't pay, like if you're buying a house, you don't pay the realtor anything. The seller is the one that's going to pay the realtor.
Right.
And
And what is that
normally it
percentage?
ranges, yeah, it's about 3%.
Oh, okay.
It's about 3%. Yeah. So,
So,
but the good
viewers, you
thing
say
is,
3%. It might not sound much, but let's look at it this way.
yeah,
If the house is worth 200,000, that is about
yeah, yeah,
$6,000
yeah.
on one house.
Uh-huh.
And in
One
Dallas,
house.
houses are pretty much expensive. So you can do the math.
Yeah,
So my point I'm trying to make is to be a
right.
realtor is a good business if you are able to realize clients, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great business, but like any job, it comes with its own
Oh,
challenges.
yes, right, right.
And that's why, before you go, you just jump into it. You have to, that, like I said, you have to learn, you have to network and know, what you're getting yourself into. Is it something you have a passion for? And you have to be prepared mentally, and by, mentally, I mean, you got to work on yourself. You have to know your worth,
Actually,
you
Solomon, hold
know.
on. I think I did the
Yeah,
math wrong. So 3% of 200 will be 6,000.
6,000. Yeah, yeah,
Okay, okay. So I was right. So if it's 400, then you're making about 12,000 on the sale of one house. Uh,
yeah.
Viewers, I know our viewers are across the globe, right? It's not limited to the
Right,
States. And I want to say that these things that we are saying are the basic principles. And you can apply these principles to everywhere that you are. Whether
you
you
are.
are in Ghana, you are in Europe, you are in Asia, location is still very important.
Right,
Where your credit or your means of financing the property is still important. So anytime I
right,
provide education like this, I always try to remind viewers that let's look at the principles based on which we are making the statements and not
right,
necessarily the specifics, so that you might think that this does not pertain to where I'm at, right? Um,
right.
so we almost at the top end of our hour. So if you don't mind, please, if you have any other tips for us on real estate itself, the value of getting into real estate, can you please share with us before we wrap up for today?
So, so, the reason why I would advise you to invest in real estate is that, a lot of people like to put their money in the bank, right? But there's something called inflation. In US, every year you're losing 3% of your money. So if you put your money in the bank and they give you, let's say, 2% every year, which you'll be lucky, right? So you take 2% and subtract from 3% inflation, you're basically losing 1% of your money every year, right? So you can keep the money in the bank, but you're not going to make anything of it. You're just going to lose your money. But if you buy real estate every year in the Dallas Fort Worth area, is going up between 4 to 10%. So I mean, think about it. I mean, it's mad, you know. And of
Correct.
course, the numbers have to be right. Just don't just buy anything, you know. And you can put my number there. If you have any question, you guys can call me, you know,
After a while, we want
214.
them to come back next week. So we're going to put the
Okay.
email and the number up next week. And this is
Yeah,
that,
that's right.
right? So that we can have them, you know, come back next week. It's very important.
Uh, all right. That would
So
be awesome.
before we wrap up, do you have
Right.
to be a full-time realtor or a full-time real estate investor, or that can be a side hustle?
No, you know, real estate that's why I like real estate. It can be a side hustle. You know what? It's like you buy a house, you're not gonna basically be looking at the house 24 hours. And the other thing you can do is you can give it to a rental company and let them do all the work. So nobody calls you if you have a rental property at 2 a.m. in the morning and say, "Hey, Solomon, my toilet is overflowing," right? So you're going to pay them a little money, but it will give you that peace of mind. So you can do it, you know, part time. I basically, you know, just, you know, started out as part time before I went full time, you know.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah.
So if you're making about 6,000 on the sale of one estate, and that is your part time, and if you sell six in a year, or let's say three in a year, at least that is 18,000 extra. I like to do the math, man. That always
Well,
gets me.
I mean, yeah, that's kind of, you know, I mean, yeah, but I just like the investing part because you know, it's something that it can be there for like 30 years, you know, if God permit and we are
Okay,
still
then let's
alive
do
by
the math
then.
on the investment part also. So let's say if you have three investment properties and you're making $500 on each one, times three, you're making
Yeah,
1,500 on each one. So times 12, how much are you making in a
right.
year just on those ones? And all you had to do was to use your credit to acquire those, plus
Right.
some down payments, right?
Yeah, save a little down payment.
Right.
And the other thing too is you don't have to use all your money. You know, like, you know, people in your age group that are very motivated, you guys can put money together. And it's easy, it's better if you have one person who knows what he's doing, be able to run the numbers, make sure it's right. The Indians have been doing it. You know, people from here, any building, that tall building that you see, you have maybe 20, 30 people. It's not one person. It's
Mm.
just that one person's name is on it, like Trump, right? I mean, Trump has so many people investing in that property. He just has his name on it. So that's kind of how it works, you
Actually,
know?
some of them, they don't even have like money in it. They have their name, their brand, selling the
Yeah,
property. So
that's right.
your network is your net worth. That is something I've learned today, and I
Exactly.
already wrote it down. I'm going to retweet it. It's very important.
Exactly.
So if you have a good network, then you can
Yeah.
use your network to build your net
Right.
worth.
What?
And
Yeah.
that is powerful, man. I got to study that as a certificate out. Uh,
Yeah.
all right. So thank you very much, Solomon. Any last words before we bring today's program to an end?
It's never too late to start, my friend. It's never too late to start. Wherever you are, as people of color, as Black people,
Mm,
we have, you know, the talent, we have the skill to take our, you know, our story to the next level. So
mm.
I want to encourage everybody, whatever you're doing, wherever you are, you know, I want you to take it to the next level.
All right, thank you very much. Taking it to the next level. We're going to take this discussion to the next level next week. So please join us next week, same time, same place, with the same people. Thank you much for joining us today.
Thank